Hey guys, this is Don. Thanks for tuning in again. Hope you're doing okay. Um, this is installment 20. I'm not sure why I have 21, but I believe it's installment 20. This is just lover thoughts on how to not just live in, but glorify God in the middle of a bad marriage, open quote, bad, close quote marriage. And remember, every time I say bad, the reason it's bad is because of my immaturity, because of the likelihood that I have made an idol out of my wife. She's actually a precious gift from Jesus. Proverbs talks about that. But I consider her, open quote, bad because she's not meeting my unrealistic, sin-filled expectations. And so the entire emphasis of these YouTube things is to get us to think biblically in regards to marriage. And I'm going to say this up front, there's going to be a lot of pain with this, a lot of pain. And here it is. If you weren't so far off track biblically in regards to your thoughts about your bad wife and your bad marriage, you wouldn't be going through the pain. God never needlessly gives pain. The reason he gives pain, I want to say it's Hebrews 12, because he's disciplining us and we're his beloved children. And there's something that's off track and it needs to get on track. And there's that piece. If you want to get a hold of me, it's resource, the number 4Christ at gmail.com. Resource4Christ, gmail.com. I need to hurry today. I have more information than normal. And so I believe this is forgiveness part 2. I want to do a quote here. And it's very simple. I choose us. I choose us, but the us is capitalized. Why? Because I choose Jesus and me. There's this wonderful little line in a cute little movie, Family Man, in 2000. The wife's favorite phrase that she frequently shares with her husband is, I choose us. I think that's really cool. Well, where I want to go with this is, number one, when it comes to my relationship, I choose us. When you're having problems with your wife in your marriage, one of the easiest things to say is, I choose us. Not out loud, because you're going to cause a conflict. In my head, I say, I choose us. But the us is capitalized. Jesus, you're my number one passion. You're my number one love. You are my soulmate. She is my helpmate. You are my source. She is my God-given resource. Okay? And so I choose us. I like that. Okay, quick prayer. Jesus, I love you. We need you. Please do something supernatural today. Thank you for living your miraculous life through me in this little thing. Love you, and I'll talk to you later. Okay, a couple of side notes. Forgiveness. I'm going to say this again out loud. We're talking about forgiveness. Most Christians are not experiencing God's gift form only forgiveness. They, like the Jews, are stumbling over the stumbling stone of performance, from earning rather than receiving. The Jews got it wrong because they messed up the law. The law was never intended to give me righteousness. The law was intended to point out my faults. In Galatians, the Greek word is pedagogos. It's cattle driver. It's like one of those prods, those electronic prods. The law prods us to Jesus. Why? Because we can't do it. So many times the Jews messed it up, and I'm going to say the majority of Christians, and I'm going to say this straight out, the majority of Christian churches use the law as a ladder that if you perform it, then you can climb your way up to Jesus. And it's just the way it is. I mean, this is John Bunyan. Run, John, run. The law demands, but gives me neither feet nor hands. Far better grace. It gives me wings and help me, whatever. You can look it up. But the law doesn't do anything. It beats us down. And what it does is it shows us our need for Jesus. That's where the majority of Christians are getting their forgiveness. Now, why is this important? Because if that's the way you're getting your forgiveness, you're gonna push that standard on everybody else that you love, including your bad wife. And it's going to be impossible. Nobody can meet that standard. Forgiveness has to be in gift form only. No paychecks, no earnings, no 40-hour relational work weeks. This is what I call the Mary Martha syndrome. Luke 10:38-42. And real simply, Martha was attempting to earn her intimacy with Jesus by cooking some crazy, fried chicken dinner, making all kinds of mess and noise in the kitchen and walking back and forth, as many times as possible, literally throwing flour on her face so Jesus could see that she's working her little hoofies off to the quick. And check it out, her standard of catching okayness, I don't believe in self-image, her standard of catching significance came from her performance. And she finally, because Jesus isn't noticing her, he's hanging out with Mary, she finally gets ticked and throws the silverware on the floor and say, Jesus, tell Mary to get off her hiney and do something. And Jesus, real casually, with a little smile on his face, say, Martha, 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 you got it all messed up. Mary's got it. She's ready. She's resting in what I did for her, not attempting to gain something from me for what by what she does for me. It's called grace. We rest in what he's done for us. We don't get our okayness from what we do for him. Anything we do for him will be a byproduct of what he's already done for us. And remember, God doesn't need our good works. Our neighbors do. So we do stuff for them and we rest in what he's done for us. And as we're doing stuff for him, he'll go, oh, cool, nice job. But he loves us anyway. Okay, that's the forgiveness thing. Pain. There's every likelihood you're going through it. I can tell you straight up, today was a horrible day. Yesterday, horrible day. Talking about forgiveness and coming up resentments, these are the hardest talks for me. Why? Because I can't do this. I come from a long line of professional resentment keepers, and this is really hard for me. I'm a hypocrite giving these things. Any forgiveness and lack of resentments that have happened is because Jesus is doing it through me, but it is the easiest thing in the world for me to not forgive. And here it is. There's every likelihood that you're doing the same thing with your open quote, bad quote wife. You may say it or whatever, but there's every likelihood you're not forgiving your wife. You're holding her to an unrealistic standard that she was never meant to keep. When you're in pain, there's every likelihood you're going to want to run from it. One of the ways you may want to run from it is may want to take your life. The way I say it is, Jesus, come back. I don't like this anymore. This is really hard. And I'm going through this today. Okay, that's why it's easy for me to put this down. Here it is. There's every likelihood that you're going to be angry at God. You're going to be flipping him off, and you're going to be angry at him. You're going to demand that he stop it. He won't stop it. He loves you too much. Philippians 1:6, he's going to continue to do this until the day of Christ Jesus because he loves you. You're going to need to want to look at this as a gift. Philippians 1:29. You can look up that on your own. You're going to want to cheat. You're going to keep thinking about divorce. Don't do it. God doesn't like it. Why? Because it's really painful and it doesn't work. You're going to want to have an affair. You're going to want to do porn. You're going to eat too much. You're going to spend too much. You're going to want to do chemicals, shoving something up your nose, your mouth, your arm, drinking, fantasies, an old substance abuse concept was harm reduction. Harm reduction. And what that means is if you're going to do something stupid, make it as, innocent as possible. Don't do anything massively stupid. Do miniature stupid things. God's going to love you and continue to forgive you whether you do something stupid or not. But he'll love and forgive me, but there's still going to be repercussions. The other thing is bring it into the light. Don't suffer in silence or in the shadows. You're going to fail. Have people to talk to, people who don't gossip. There you go. He will never leave you or forsake you. Hebrews 13:5, 1 Peter 5, 6, and 7. Okay. We're just going to jump into it. I got to look at my time here. Okay. Another forgiveness confusion is if I forgive them, that means I condone what they did. This is one of the struggles. Well, I'm not going to forgive them because if I forgive them, that means I'm telling them it's okay what they did. No, it's not. No, it's not. Not true. With the same love and compassion that Jesus extended to me when he died on the cross and forgave all my sins, I'm going to want to extend that same forgiveness that I received towards the offending person. In this case, it'll be my open quote, bad, close quote, wife. Ephesians 4:32. But, ready? Just because I pass it on to them, the forgiveness that Jesus passed on to me, doesn't mean there won't necessarily be a penalty or repercussion for the offense. Let me give an example. I was a number of years ago, but for whatever reason, the heat exchanger in our air conditioner was making too much noise in the backyard or whatever. So I went around with my little drill and stuff, and I was putting larger screws in all the holes. And everything was fine until the very last one that was right up against the side of the house. The angle was wrong, and I drilled into whatever those pipes, and then all this mist came out. Well, $450 later, after the repairman left, it was working again. Or it is. My wife, literally, she's so unbelievably gracious. This is her big phrase. I have it written down. It's no big deal, Dawn. We have a little bit of money in savings. Stuff happens. That's what my wife said. Well, okay, she forgave me. But here it is, ready? She sure didn't condone what I did, and I know she doesn't want it to happen again. Okay, so forgiveness can be forgiven, but at the same time, and she doesn't have to say this because she's very gracious, but I'm sure what she's saying is, hey, can you not do that again? Okay, simple little example. Okay, she's not condoning what I did, but she's forgiving it. Okay, hopefully that works out. The next hiccup in the context of forgiveness is I have to feel forgiving before I can give forgiveness. What a mess. And I'm going to say this again, we place too much faith in our feelings. The entire world, we've become navel gazers. Okay, kind of do the, got to have the Eeyore voice. Okay, what am I feeling? And we spend our entire days, especially relationally, what am I feeling? What am I feeling? No, far more important than that is, what does Jesus say of how relationships should work? Doctrine ourselves into right relationship. Biblically verse ourselves into right relationships. Not the most important relational characteristics or things we have to do have nothing to do with our feelings. We just do them in Jesus's power for his glory. We just do them. Forgiveness is just like love. I don't have to feel it in order to give it or extend it. Forgiveness is a choice. It's a decision. I choose to forgive based on the fact that God tells me to forgive. Ephesians 4:32. He forgave me. I forgive you. In the same way Jesus loved me, I'm going to love you. And one of the ways I'm going to forgive you. God has already forgiven me for the horrible things I have done. So as a byproduct, I can pass it on to her for the minuscule, the little teeny thing that she did to me. Man, have I done some horrible sins in the past. Gigantic, railroad tie in my eye, little teeny sawdust over there, but I'm making railroad tie there and think, no, horrible sins. My wife has never done anything horrible to me. But I make relational mountains out of little teeny molehills. Note ready? Nowhere in the Bible does it say I need to feel forgiving. It doesn't even come into you have to feel. No, you just do it. He did it for us. We do it for them. In his power for his glory. We place too much faith in our feelings. Here's one of the problems. Because we place so much faith in our feelings and we've been spending way too much time, watching the Hallmark Channel, all this silliness, we think we're either being fake or hypocritical if we don't feel it. No, No, we do it because it's the right thing to do. And you're going to, hopefully, we'll be able to see this later, but the old feelings are byproducts. They're the caboose of the train. The engine is fact. The coal car is faith, trust. That's the little, engine, little energy source. And then the caboose is feelings. Feelings have nothing to do with forgiveness. Colossians 3:13. Make allowance for each other's faults and forgive anyone who offends you. Remember, the Lord forgave you, so you must forgive others. That's fantastic. I love it. Very simple. Next hiccup. In the context of forgiveness, got to look at my time here. Ooh, wow. Okay. If I don't forget it, I didn't forgive it. If I don't forget it, I didn't forgive it. Oh my goodness. I can't even tell you how many times I heard that from counselees and even from other counselors. They literally said out loud in public, if you remember it, you didn't forgive it. Are you kidding me? This notion, I'm just going to read this, can really be disturbing, draining, and disruptive in our open quote, bad close quote marriages. Because I'm going to say this out loud. Remember, whenever there's people involved, there's going to be messes. Messes hurt. When something hurts, we remember. Just because I remember something doesn't mean I didn't forgive it. What it means is, we're going to look at this later, that's why Jesus said 70 times 7. Because on a daily basis, on an hourly basis, on a minute-by-minute basis, certain things may come up, and then I forgave her for that. 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 It can continue to go on for years. It can continue to go on till you die. Based on where you're at, and resting in what Jesus has done for you, what he has done for you. But when you get out of that and you start doing the spiritual relational treadmill where it's up to you, do more, try harder, it keeps speeding up, then you're going to end up extending that or pushing that onto your loved ones. Well, doggone it, I have to perform for my forgiveness, so do you. Oops, that's where we get in trouble. I think we got that. When things hurt, they're going to be really hard to forget. But I'm going to say it doesn't matter. That's not the point. The point is to forgive. 1 Peter 4:8. Most important of all, continue to show deep love to each other, for love covers a multitude of sins. So continue to love. And in this context, the specific way of loving is to forgive. Okay? I wonder if this is why, again, Jesus said that you don't just forgive 7 times, you forgive 70 times 7. I've heard some, smart guys say that the 70 times 7 is kind of a perfect number. So infinity, you just keep forgiving. Matthew 18:21 and 22. Why? Ready? I'm going to read this because I think it's important. Because many times, if not most times, we don't forget. The hope or goal here is that every time that painful memory of that experience comes to mind, I tell myself, quote, I've already forgiven her for that, close quote. And I do this 70 times 7 or however long, possibly for the rest of my life. We may struggle with the inability to forget our past sins. God, on the other hand, does not. See, one of the reasons we don't forget their sins is because we're not forgiving ours. Why? I'm going back to that same piece. Because we're not experiencing God's true love and forgiveness. We're attempting to earn it, and we haven't earned it enough. So we keep bringing it up, and we do our mental, spiritual, emotional, psychological penance of beating ourselves some way or another. Oh, I haven't done enough to experience God's forgiveness. Well, you can keep beating yourself all you want to, but God's already forgiven you. He died on the cross. Hebrews 10. Our sins are forgiven, past, present, and future. The cool thing, Hebrews 8:12, he remembers our sins no more. The sins I can't forget are the sins he chooses not to remember. The sins I can't forget are the sins he chooses not to remember. Hebrews 8:12. He chooses not to remember. Of course, he can remember. He chooses not to. So what I'm going to say here is let's do a little sidestep here. Recall the worst sin that you've ever committed. You got yours, I got mine. I have it in my head where it is. It's not hard to do. At times, this thing based on various, input, garbage in, garbage out input, I can remember that. Even right now, I can remember it. I don't want to, but I can remember it. I went and asked forgiveness of the person I hurt. I confessed my sin to many people, obviously to Jesus, but I went to the person and said, I'm so sorry, can I do anything? It's taken care of. But at times, I can beat myself up with that, which doesn't do any good. What I want to say is I'm justified, just as if I'd always obeyed. Jerry Bridges' definition, justification. To me, one of the greatest, if not the greatest doctrine of the Bible. He's forgiven me. Just as he looks at me, Romans chapter 5, imputed righteousness, old King James word, he looks at me as if I'm as righteous, holy as Jesus. Colossians 1:22, I'm pure and holy and without fault. That's how God sees me. That's how he chooses to see me. It's not true, but that's how he chooses to see me. Why? Because he looks at me on a grading scale of how Jesus did, not how I did. It's not about what I do. It's about what Jesus has done, what he did for me. I'm pure and holy and without fault. That's just in the Bible. I didn't make it up. That's in the Bible. He chooses not to remember. He throws it into the deepest sea and chooses Micah 7:9, Hebrews 8:12. He chooses to do that. Good. So here's the deal. Since God did it for me, I want to do it for her. Leave her alone. Give her a break. The same break that God gave you. And I'm going to say this again. Please listen. This makes me emotional when I say this. If you were stuck in that performance treadmill, will you get your forgiveness based on your performance, penance? It's not going to do anything. And now you're going to attempt to push that on her in the same way you've already pushed it on yourself. Number one, it's not biblical. Number two, it doesn't work. God is amazing in this area. What freedom, how kind. I don't even deserve God talking to me through the Bible, let alone him forgiving me. Anything this side of hell is grace, He's forgiven all my junk. I don't deserve it, but he's forgiven me. Now, as I marinate in that, then I want to pass that on to her. You can't give what you don't have, not even to your bad wife. So we have to focus on what Jesus has already done for us in regards to forgiveness. Now we have forgiveness to give. And I've got a smiley face on this one, so here it is. Is there a possibility that if God chooses not to remember our sin, maybe we can ask him to help us do the same thing with our open quote bad close quote wife? Next one, with his help and his power and through his love, we can say towards our open quote bad close quote wife, the sins I can't forget are the sins he chooses not to remember. As I remind myself that he has already forgiven me, ready? He's already forgiven her, and he chooses not to remember those sins. So I can ask him to help me do the same thing. The sins I can't forget about her, he chooses not to remember. He doesn't remember them. I'm making a big deal of them, but Jesus has already forgiven her for it. So now what I want to do is I want to ask Jesus to do the same thing for me. Priceless. But if that doesn't happen or it takes too long, I can remind myself on a daily basis, if necessary, he forgave me. In his power, I can forgive her. He forgave me, I forgive her. He's not even remember it. 70 times 7 for the rest of my life. God, thank you that this is not an issue. She is, Colossians 1:22, she's pure and holy and without fault. Why am I hanging on to stuff that Jesus doesn't? There's going to be some serious problems if I do that. Next hiccup, next misconception. Got to hurry up. Matthew 18:15 through 17 says, if another believer sins against you, go privately and point out the offense. If the other person listens and confesses it, you have one person back. Okay, ready? The misconception is with forgiveness is the belief that offending parties have to ask me for forgiveness before I can give it. They have to come to me and say, "Oh, I'm so sorry." Are you kidding me? The majority of the time, that doesn't happen. And so then what happens is you're hanging on to the offense. You think you're being gracious by hanging on to it. No, what you're doing is you're stuffing it, and it's festering, and it's going to come out in the next argument, or you're going to do something stupid. That's where resentments come from. So if she chooses not to, then go, and this is what we're going to talk about. Obviously, I agree with this passage. The goal here isn't to treat, quote, treat whomever like a pagan, but to, open quote, win a whomever back. Win whomever it is back. I gotta hurry up. Ooh, baby. When talking to and or confronting authority figures or our open quote bad wives, never make a statement when a question will do, never use 3 words when you can use 2, and never repeat yourself. Why? Because if you do one of those 3, it's going to tend to create a conflict, and what you're going to do is you're going to end up painting your loved one into a relational corner. So stay away from those. I'm going to paraphrase Matthew 18. If your bad wife has sinned against you, go privately and use iMessages, counseling stuff, in order to point it out. In order to point out how, open quote, I was really hurt. I'm not talking about church confrontation here. I'm talking about working through conflicts with my, open quote, bad wife in a bad marriage. Again, the priority here isn't to show that I'm right or I have my act together or to bring up her junk from the past. Ready? The goal is to restore marital homeostasis. The goal is to say something like, quote, I don't want to come across as condescending or as Mr. Together, but I was really hurt when such and such took place, and I was wondering if you'd be willing to talk to me about this. I don't want to hang on to this, and I don't want it to fester, and I certainly don't want it to blow up or turn into a resentment. I just want you to know that I love you, Lori, and with God helping me, I'll never bring this up again, but would you be willing to work through this with me a little bit, please? Because I don't want it, I don't want to hang on to it. Hopefully God will give me the ability to consider her more important than myself and shoot for a win-win rather than a me-win situation. Overall, with Jesus permeating this entire confrontation process, you will have won your wife back, Matthew 18:15. Oh boy, here we go. We got 2 minutes. And finally, in the context of forgiveness, many times we lend forgiveness rather than give it. What do I mean by this? Many times we'll say, hey, I forgive you for this. If you bring something up again in a future argument, you did not give forgiveness, you lent it. And my family was amazing at this. Even though the last time, this is a quote, I told you I forgave you, actually, I didn't give it to you, I just lent it to you. Key point, don't allow yourself to think about past forgiven wrongs. They seem safe because they're just going through your head and nobody can see it. That's not true. If I allow those past sins to go around in my head, I'm literally loading up ammunition for the next fight or argument, and it's going to come out. You know it's true because you've already done it. So the goal is don't do it. We're destroying speculation and every lofty thing raised up against the knowledge of God and taking every thought captive to the obedience of Christ Jesus as Lord. 2 Corinthians 10:5, something like that. No, we can't allow that. True, authentic forgiveness needs to be forgiven over and over and over again, never lent. That's why the 70 times 7 thing. Past memories have to be disciplined. They don't get to roll around in our noggin. If it comes up, you say, Jesus, please forgive me. This is wrong. You forgave me. I forgave her. I don't want this going on in my head. I love you. I love you, and I want to do the same to her. Putting authentic forgiveness into practice with God's help and in His power is a wonderful way to, ready, just love her. Thanks, guys. See you next time.